One of the things I talk about a lot is how important it is to create a reprex if you want to get help, or minimal reprex that includes as little code as possible. Since a lot of people seem to struggle with this, I thought I'd do a quick demo of how I take a reprex that someone has provided and turn it into a minimal reprex to make it as small as possible. This isn't something that I just like ask people to do because I like asking for it. This is genuinely the thing that I do first when I try and solve any problem with my own code. So I'm going to show you an example from our studio community, a question about Shiny. I don't want to like pick on the person who asked that at all, but this is a great example of an app that's got a problem. And to try and help solve that problem, there's about 150 lines of code. And so if I'm going to help someone with this problem, the first thing I'm going to do is try and reduce this down to be as small as possible. So the first thing I do is trying to go through, make sure I have all the packages. I don't have artist. Let's install that. Geodist, I don't have cable extra, so let's install that. Tidyverse, DT, and I need to install Shiny widgets. Okay, now I can create this function, the UI, create the server, and run the app. And let's say I'm using the conflicted package, and it's identified a conflict, so I'm just going to resolve that conflict. I want to use the render data table function from the DT package. We still have confirm suite alert. So, check I load all these packages. And run this again. Okay. So I don't really know what's going on here, and the reset button doesn't do anything, but let's proceed anyway with my attempt to make this a little simpler so I can understand what's going on. So the first thing I do is I'm just going to restyle this code so it's easier for me to read. I use the styler package for this, which is I've just bound to a keyboard shortcut in RStudio. That gets me a little bit of a nicer place to start. And so we can see we've got this big function.cl. Guessing from the context, that's something to do with clustering. So we'll just kind of put that aside by now. There's a lot going on in that function, but we can see it returns two things, something that is industry, exclusion, and data table one. So maybe we could just run this function.cl. How do we run that? It takes a data frame. How's it used down here? The df, but I think this df actually needs to be hoisted up here. So we've got some sample data, and then I can call it with, okay. And so I get an industry and data, and let's just, now that I made that change, let's see if that app works now. Still doesn't do anything. So let's keep working. So let's reduce the UI a little bit. Well, this title panel doesn't do anything. This is really simple, so I don't really need any extra layouts. I'm just going to rip all that out just to make my UI as simple as possible. And then I've got that. Okay, so what do we do? Well, we're calling this with a reactive. So what is going on here? Well, this doesn't need to be a reactive since it's just called little constant. So that means we can remove, oops, we can remove the parentheses around that, and that's got a bunch of extra ones. That. Okay, and then one. Let's call this industry. Let's call this excluded actually, and let's call this data. And we don't actually need those, and we don't need this return, so let's get rid of that. Actually, yes, I will save it just in case. It's complaining that I haven't supplied a K. It looks like it's being defaulted to 4 down there, so let's just delete that. Okay, now just move that to the top. And we've got output in, that doesn't exist here, but that's just going to be a table of the industries. But I think when we ran this before, it's just going to be a number. So let's just put a text and text output here, call it excluded, and so output excluded. And this is just for debugging, so I'm going to use render print model CL. So I want to re-execute this function, so I get my new names. Excluded. Okay. And we'll leave that there for now. Now we've got some big old observe block here. Let's confirm status. So that looks like it just gets set once. So I'm just going to simplify this and just add another action button called confirm. And so we'll just observe event input confirm. So that'll come up every time I click that button. And then let's just get rid of all the conditioning in there. So this is always going to work. And run the bottom, and I think I can get rid of this confirmed status, which I'm hoping, just kind of guessing, this isn't actually important. So remove that, and then I think that means we can remove this reset button as well. And let's see, why am I getting a syntax error there? Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's run this again. Okay, and this is great. Now I actually have some output, which is great. And then if I can click confirm, so it's excluding industry 5. Okay, well, that's all very well and good, but what do we actually want to do with this? So what's going on here? Well, there's no point requiring that since it's not a reactive. So that is just this. So the data table there. Shrink all that. We don't need this explicit return. Just make sure, what have I messed up? I see a parenthesis. Data table 1. Oops. Just do it like this, do it in 2 steps. That's a bit cleaner. Okay, same as before. Right, no worry. Let's get rid of these options because they didn't seem to be relevant either. Okay. So now we've got the data table. So what does this confirm? Okay, so now we could actually go back. There's no, not using plot here. Are we actually using? Cable extra? We're using the tidyverse. Let's just restart R. Reload that. We're using that for is empty. So we'll just say if length is greater than 0, oops, equals, what was that? If it's not empty, so if the length is greater than 0, okay, it looks like the only use of the tidyverse there. Can remove rdist, restart R, rerun that. Looks like we don't need rdist. What about geosphere? Oops, let's restart that again just to be sure. Okay, we do need geosphere. Restart R, delete cable extra. Okay, and then I think we can actually get rid of DT because there's a data table built into Shiny, and in fact, I mean, that's not even really related to the thing, so we could call it data table, it's data table output. Restart R again, just check that is, okay. Now, what was the data table coming from? Oh, and let's do this, I think, now. Okay, getting closer, and actually we don't even really need a data table there. We could just call it, what's the table output? And render table. No need to add complexity to a reprex when we don't need it. Okay, we're getting closer. And in fact, we should keep these the same, I guess. Okay, so we've got a lot simpler. Let's see if we can simplify confirm suite alert. Let's eliminate all of these arguments. Text. We don't really need to do this. Excluding cost. Simplify that just because the styling doesn't matter. Does we have to supply type? Sounds like it is a question. And we don't really need to even. Okay, and we should change this to excluded as well, just so we can actually tell what's happening then. And then let's call this cluster. We won't use random capital letters because it's hard to type. Let's call it cluster ring just to make it a little more. Run the whole thing again. Okay, and so the original question was, the output table is generated with industry 5 excluded, but don't want to. So there's no current way to, how do we choose which ones are excluded? So let's see what's going on inside this function. So it seems like the problem is that the exclusion is actually happening in this function. So let's just whip that out. So it's okay, now it's there. Okay, so now we can, now we need somewhere to actually do the cost exclusion. So probably it's a little easier rather than doing this in a dialog box, just to understand what the flow is, to start with a select input. We'll call that exclude industries. Yes or no. Okay, so now we want to do, we'll do this cluster data. We want a reactive if input exclude equals yes. We want to exclude it. Otherwise, we want the data to just be, we might as well pull this, just pull this out. Okay, we'll do this actually, do that. And we might as well order it here. And then we can simplify that even further. And then we're getting rid of this input confirm. Okay, so if it's excluded, let's just put a browser statement there so I can see what I'm playing with. Let's remove these argument names. Let's know that what those arguments are. Okay, so we want to exclude it. The data looks like this. I think industries is a list column. Oh, yeah, it's a list column. Oh no, it's not a list column. It's all pasted together. How did that happen? I wonder if we can find that. We can't find that. We've got don't really know what's going on here. So I'm just going to hack my way around the problem, and we'll just split these apart. Cluster, we'll do str split. Data industries, we'll split by that. Oops, underscore costs, we'll call that clusters. Which we'll call it industries, actually. And then we just want to find, is there any way to, no, we'll just do like a S apply, we'll just do something quick and dirty. Industries, function, each industry is clustering excluded in that. That's not what I wanted. Industries. Oh, I need to make this numeric. Wow. Again, this is just oops, and X. Okay, so I'm just doing a bunch of code here because I don't understand how this function up here works. It'd be much better to fix this higher up, but since I don't understand that, I'm just going to hack my way around it, and we will exclude those. It'd be better to call those keep, no, better to call it drop. We want all the rows except the ones we've dropped. Let's check that. And there we go, that looks good. So I'm going to quit that, quit the browser, restart the app. Industries not found. Oh. Oops, I accidentally deleted too much before. Industry, stress, split, data, industry. Oops, non-character argument. Well, I'm clearly messing something up, so let's put my browser back in, rerun the whole thing. Does this line work? Nope. Data. Of course, it's capital letter at the start. Okay, that looks better. Run that again. And now we can choose whether or not to include the industries. So let's go ahead and delete this. And now we have, well, I've kind of solved the problem in passing, but a nice little app that if I was still struggling with, I could still share with someone else. If I was going to share this, if I'd written this code, I'd also go through and make this as simple as possible, just because in this case, it actually turned out the problem really was inside this function because it wasn't giving us enough control to do what we wanted in the app. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you got something from that. Pretty standard process I follow when I am creating a reprex for someone or myself.